Welcome to Stuck in My Mind podcast, the show where we dive into the mind of a regular guy on his road to self-discovery. You'll hear everyday people just like you share the latest topics, personal stories, and things they've learned along the way. And now, please welcome your host, Wise.
And welcome to another episode. I am your host, W-I-Z-E, and I have a very special guest. For over 30 years, this man has been sought after for his problem solving solutions. He's a strategist, a catalyst whose insights have brought breakthroughs to Fortune 500 companies and small businesses alike. Welcome to the show, Steve Fredlund. What's going on, Steve?
Hey, Wise, how you doing, man?
I am doing well, brother. I am doing well. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. No place I'd rather be than right here with you.
All right, so let's get this going. Okay, so what exactly do you do?
That's the big question, right?
Yes.
So I'm a multi-passionate guy. I've always have been. A lot of things going on. Right now, I really focus on helping small businesses. And when I say small business, I mean like the micro businesses, the mom and pop shops, the solopreneurs, the aspiring entrepreneurs, those kind of 1 or 2 person shops. That's my jam. It's helping those folks as much as I can through coaching, consulting, training, mentoring, whatever that might be. And then I also do a fair amount of keynote speaking as well.
So what made you focus on small businesses? And that's why we're talking, because I like to focus on entrepreneurs, small business owners, and people like that.
I spent about 25 years in the corporate world, actually working for big Fortune 500 companies. And that was great. But ultimately what I realized is these aren't really my people. You know, I'm from a small town in Minnesota. My wife and I are both 5th generation in that community. Our kids are 6, like 10,000 person community. And, the corporate world is good. I'm like, man, this just isn't, they're just not my people. And they're good people, just not my people. And so about 4 years ago, went out on my own, and my passion is really around how do we help our communities become more vibrant, especially our smaller communities. The main streets are being lost to bypasses and big box stores, and the small businesses are shutting down. And so the question I asked was, how can I contribute best to helping our communities become more vibrant? What does that look like? Is it politics? Is it, what do I actually get involved with? And where we landed, I had a group of people around me was, man, if we can figure out a way to help our small businesses in our communities become more successful, that's going to create more vibrancy in our communities, because these are the people that they live there, work there, eat there, play there, volunteer there, raise their kids there. Like, if we can help them be more successful and even create jobs, that's going to be critical in helping our communities become more vibrant. So that's where my focus has been.
And I feel, because I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York, but now I live up in the Pocono Mountains, and the town I live in, it's not a big town. It's one road through the town.
Yep.
So I know what you're talking about, giving back to the community and wanting to see local business succeed. And so me, with my podcast, I try to go around, and if I can help promote a local business, then I'll do that. And I don't charge anybody, especially for local businesses. If any of my audience members can benefit from any of the services from anywhere in this community, I am more than willing to help promote them and go and support them, because that's what you got to do. In order to be successful, you need to support other people.
Mm-hmm.
You can't expect people to support you if you're not showing people the same support.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, a lot of small businesses, especially those micro businesses in these rural areas, like you mentioned in Pennsylvania or Minnesota or wherever, there's not a lot of great support there for them. If they need help, if they need training on social media or figure out customer service, or how do I do pricing? What should I do? There's, YouTube, or there's like free government programs. And those are, good-hearted people that are trying to help, but they're not people that have the same level of experience, that somebody like myself has, because most business coaches, most consultants are going after the big companies, right? Like people like me, we want to go, get the contract at Medtronic or, 3M and that sort of thing. And so what I'm trying to do is fill that gap and encourage other business coaches, consultants to kind of fill this gap too and say, let's make the level of support that we can bring available to these people who really most desperately need it, which are the people that don't maybe have the same level of business training or whatever. They're people that are just really good at a skill, but they've never really run a business. How can we help them actually create a business that can be more successful? So like you, I love that you're helping small businesses in your area. And I think we need more and more of that.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I do the podcast is because there's people. Look, we didn't. There's a lot of things that we weren't taught growing up. We were taught go to school, get an education, go to college, get the job, retire from that job, and do that job to you retire and got your pension. And it doesn't work out that way. A lot of jobs don't even offer medical benefits. So when I found out this is like I had been wanting a podcast for a while, and I just made excuses. It was me doubting myself, me not wanting, me just making excuses for not wanting to do it. And so when I finally decided to press record after I got furloughed from work because of the pandemic, I found that I had a voice then, and that this is what I didn't know. I'm not in the media field. I didn't start off my career. I'm a table games dealer, and so for me to get into this medium and do this and not have no prior experience, and now in the 2 years that I've been doing it, I've learned how to edit audio, edit video, how to use Canva to create my cover art, to create my thumbnails, whatever I need to do, how to create logos for myself. And it's just been amazing. Like if you would have told me 3 years ago that I would be doing this right now, I was like, nah, you're kidding me. It's a joke. Nah, I
Yeah,
don't believe
you're
you.
and you're crushing StreamYard. StreamYard looks great. You're using that for your tool there, and that's awesome. And I think there's a lot of people that have that same story where, unfortunately for you, maybe it wasn't a choice. You got put in a situation where now you have to do some different things. But some people choose it. But either way, this idea of reinventing yourself or really figuring out like what do you enjoy. I mean, what maybe you've always wanted to try podcasting, but a lot of people never do it. Like you said, you had an opportunity. Some people never do it, but man, as far as I know, we only have one shot at this life. Like do stuff that you want to try. What's the worst that can happen? You start a podcast, it doesn't work out and you stop it. Like this is not life and death sort of thing. Now it might be embarrassing. It might be whatever, but you can start small and try that. So, I mean, kudos to you for trying that thing.
And it's grown, man. It's grown. On my YouTube channel, I've got over 3,000 subscribers. As far as my audio side, I'm almost at 7,000 downloads. So it's growing, and from me starting my podcast, I started a production company. We launched the internet radio station. We self-published 3 books already. A book my nephew had written, a book of poetry that I assembled together, and another book of poetry that another partner of ours wrote. And so to be able to do these things just from pressing record on my laptop and recording my first episode, it triggered something. It triggered something in me that for me, I never thought I was a creator of content, or I played sports. I did other things, and I have other different things that I enjoy doing. I'm a avid gamer, but I never thought of myself as a creative content or artist. And so when I started doing the podcast, this creative side of me just opened up and just started flowing, and I just like I got to do this and do this and a lot of the things that I want to learn. You mentioned it, YouTube. There's always a video for something, an answer for something I need to know, and YouTube usually has the answer for me.
It does, man. It's amazing. I don't know how many things I fixed in my house. Like, okay, this the hot water is not working. YouTube, and it's there, right? It's amazing. So whether it's that or business, I think the part that you miss out on some of that is it's hard when you're like running your own business to get you can get insights, you can get training, but it's hard to actually get that customized insight for your specific business. But man, there's so much good stuff out there.
Oh yeah, and at least especially that's one thing small businesses don't know how to use is social media, is how to use platforms like YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and TikTok to actually to actually use it and help their business with it. A lot of these small businesses do not know this. A lot of these people are not tech savvy. And
Yeah, and it's tech savvy, and it's also even like, what is the strategy around? And I think I've struggled with that for 4 years. I was an actuary, so I never had to promote myself, promote a business. I was just, here's a problem to solve, go solve it, and that's what I did. And so, like you, I've kind of had to learn that along the way. And I think with social media specifically, but a lot of things this applies to is that we just think we're supposed to do social media, right? We should. We should be on LinkedIn. We should be on Twitter. We should be on Instagram. We should be on TikTok. And so we just go, oh man, I should do all that. So we just go ahead and we open up accounts for everything. And then we just put stuff out there. We don't even know if it's good. We have no strategy. And I think a lot of small business owners fall into that trap where those things are good. Maybe they're not all needed. Maybe they are. They're good. But if you don't have a strategy, and this was the case for me when I first started it, like, well, I'm just supposed to post something. So here we go. And I think it's so ineffective and it's so time consuming and it's very irritating and frustrating when you get, one like or 2 comments, on something that you put a lot of time in. And so I think just like anything else in your business with social media, you need to get strategic about it. And that comes back down to clarity of what are you really trying to do in your business? If you get, 10,000 connections on LinkedIn, does that do anything for your business? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but you need to understand what you're actually trying to do on social media, just like with other parts of your business. And I think that's where small business owners, entrepreneurs get so tired and so burnt out and so exhausted because they're trying to do everything when 80% of it isn't really even adding value to their business.
yeah, I feel you. Yeah, that's absolutely right. If you're not using it the correct way, it is a waste of your time.
Yeah, and it can even do damage. It can even actually have a negative impact. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And so it's kind of, that's why it's kind of hard for them to sometimes compete, but to have someone like yourself come in and able to help them and show them ways that they can help promote themselves and help get themselves out there.
Mm-hmm.
That's very big because a lot of people don't focus on small businesses.
They don't. And I think even like there's so many, I'd say probably 60% of the small businesses in my county of East Central Minnesota don't even have a website. Now, some of them have like a Facebook page. They don't have a website. And they're wondering, especially pandemic hits, why aren't people coming in to buy shoes? Well, because they're going to the internet, they're looking for shoe stores in the area and they're not finding you. Like, this is not rocket science, but I think, they don't have websites. And if they have a website, it's really poor. And I'm not saying you have to spend tens of thousands of dollars on a website, but it's so bad. It's like, oh, I'm not going there. And so I think just these, and it doesn't take a lot to upgrade some of this stuff. And so I think just having an external person look at your stuff and say, okay, what's the perception if I were to go look for your store? Or if I were to go look for, a tiler, somebody who tiles bathrooms in this area, would I find you? What would I find? How would it look? And so I think just having that perspective is huge for people.
Yeah, it is. It's key because like you said, it's how are these people supposed to like know anything about you if you don't have a website? And a lot of people, that's the first thing they do. They're like, let me see any local shoes.
You bet.
And if you don't have a website, you're not going to pop up. It's the people who actually have a website are the ones that are going to show up and they're going to be like, okay, let me check this place out.
Yeah. And restaurants are the big one. Like, and during COVID, I got some money to help restaurants kind of rebrand and create websites and all that sort of stuff because, I won't name the name, but, go like there's one city that's right on a major freeway, one city, it's, 8,000 people or whatever. It's right on a major freeway. There's maybe 10 to 12 different eating options there. But if you were to stop off that freeway and look up on Google Maps or whatever for where to eat in that community, you wouldn't find like more than 1 or 2. And well, how are people going to know? So all your only audience then is people that are in that community already that are repeat customers. And that's good, of course. But there's all these people, like it's a major, interstate that's going through this community. And there's people all the time that are on their phones going, man, I'm getting hungry. We should stop and eat. And they're not finding you. I bet it's probably 10 to 20 customers a day that they're losing because of that. And so just those kinds of, just the awareness of that kind of thing. And it can be intimidating. I think you mentioned too, just the technology can be, that's intimidating. I don't want to have to do that. It's usually not as hard as you think. And there's people that can do it for you.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, absolutely right. Okay, so what causes leaders to be unhappy at
Mm.
their
Yeah, I think that's something I talk about quite a bit is leaders and even people in general unhappiness. And what I found, excuse me, and this is really out of my own journey, right? I about 15 years ago, I was in the corporate world. I had a great job, just got promoted, great marriage, great relationship with my kids, but I was completely miserable. And I was trying to figure out what is going on here. Why, on paper, my life is so good, and I'm a middle-aged white American. Like everything is in my favor. Like whole deck. You mentioned you were a dealer, table game dealer. The whole deck was stacked in my favor, but I was still miserable. And I was trying to figure that out. And so that kind of led me on this journey of trying to figure out what makes people happy and unhappy, what makes leaders happy and unhappy, because we're all different. We all have different things that we enjoy and all those things. And ultimately, what I came up with is that really happiness comes down to the alignment between our actual reality and what we want our reality to be. Basically, how things are versus what we want. And it's true in business. It's true as leaders that, think about something that you're happy about. Well, you're happy about it probably because things are how you want them to be, right? I mean, the Minnesota Wild, I wish they would win a hockey game, right? So when they win, I'm happy because that's what I want to happen. And if you think about things that you're unhappy about, it's probably because things aren't how you want them to be, right? And so that's really the driving force of this thing. And so if we want to be happy, it's all about figuring out, getting clarity on who we are, what we want, where we want to go, how we want to get there, who we want to get there with, like really getting crystal clear on what sort of life, what sort of business, what sort of leadership that we want. If we're not clear, then nothing else matters. Like if we don't know where we're going, it's Alice in Wonderland. If you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. So you have to be clear on what you're trying to do, and then you have to be intentional about making decisions that are lined up with that. And so happiness is really comes from a place of knowing who you are and what you want from your business, and then making every decision that's lined up with that clarity. And that's what keeps you in alignment. I use the analogy of like our backbone, right? As I've gotten older, my back has had a few more problems in it, and it's one of these things. When things are a little bit out of alignment in your back, you start going it's a little bit hurts a little bit. You start being a little uncomfortable. You start losing sleep. You get a little irritable. You start becoming unhappy, and then you go to the chiropractor and they crack it or whatever, and then you start feeling better. And I think that's the same thing in our leadership, in our businesses, is that we get out of alignment. It's this cumulative effect of making decisions that aren't lined up with who we really are. And we wake up one day and we're like, why does this suck? Why is this terrible? Why do I hate, this business? Why do I hate being in leadership? Usually it's a result of those misalignments that cause from making decisions, not intentionally.
yeah and I see that effect when as being a supervisor also at work and sometimes there's just certain things at work that just that they're supposed to be done a certain way, and it just keeps not working. So you get fed up sometimes at being a leader or supervisor, whatever, and trying to do right, and yet other people. It's when you're trying to do something and get something together, and when you have people who are the same supervisor position as you, who know what they're supposed to do and just don't care. So it makes it a little bit difficult for you to do your job, and sometimes it can be frustrating. And that's why it's one of the reasons that I love my job. It's an easy job. I make good money, but it's not aligning with what I want to do, which is actually ultimately help people as much as I can, and going to that service of helping people. I'm like I said, I started a production company. I've actually got a couple of meetings the next couple of days with clients, with helping them start a podcast and helping them get on and helping them get going. And so that's where I see myself going in that direction. And like I said, I have an easy job, but you start when you start doing something that you're passionate about and you love doing, everything else is like, and I'm not happy here anymore. I think it's time for me to move on.
Yeah, that's the dangerous part of getting clarity on who we are, right? Like I would say that happiness comes from being clear on who you are, what you want, and then being intentional about moving in that direction. The problem is when you get clear on who you are and what you want, that might not line up with what you're currently doing, how you're currently involved, and then you're at a crossroads. You have to decide, what are you going to do then? Are you going to just kind of be unhappy and but stay in that position? That's a viable option. A lot of people choose it. That's one thing you can do. Or are you going to take some steps to move in a different direction, which is more risky? It's scary. It takes courage and all of those things. So I think depending on your personality, depending on your tolerance for risk and all of those things, people make different decisions. But that is the danger. It's sort of like the Matrix, right? You take the red pill, now you're going to go down there deeper, or whichever one it is. Take the blue pill and you're going to kind of forget that you ever saw. But man, once you go on that road of really trying to figure out who you are and what you want, and you start realizing that, man, I want to live that kind of life. I don't want to live somebody else's life anymore. It's super exciting. It's super filled with passion, but it comes with some big decisions and big crossroads that you're going to be at.
Oh, believe me, and I know I'll know when I'm ready to really to take that next step. I'm really. It's not that I'm afraid to take the next step, but I know when I'm in the right situation and I'm comfortable enough for me to be like, you know what, now is the time for me to.
Well, and there's some real practical considerations, right? So, clarity isn't just about, oh man, I love to, mow grass. And so I'm just going to go mow grass 24 hours a day and not get paid. I mean, there's some, when you talk about the clarity of who you are and what you want, that includes things like financial situation. It includes things like benefits. It includes, so when you think about what you want out of your life, it doesn't mean you can just quit everything and go do it unless you don't care about money at all, which is perfectly fine. But part of your evaluation, part of the listener's evaluation is to say, all right, what do I really enjoy? What do I really want out of life? What is that going to require? Okay, well, if whatever I need to do, I need to make sure I make at least $25,000 a year, and I need to have benefits. And you start to create this sort of this sandbox. Like what are the constraints that I need to have? And then you can say, all right, what can I do inside of that sandbox? And so for you, and for a lot of people, that might be, you take it slow and you transition one from the other. You keep the job, you keep the benefits, you do a little bit more of this until you get to the point where, man, I can actually now do this.
Yeah.
And it's less risky than just saying, okay, tomorrow I'm going to quit my job. Today I'm going to start a production company, and it's going to be 3 years till I get back to where I need to be. Some people can get away with that. Some people can, have the financial independence or whatever to be able to do that. Some people, they need to kind of work their way into it. And I think the value of working your way into it is not only financial, but it's also, it gives you an idea of do you really like it? Because a lot of us think we would really like things, right? Like there was a time when I thought, oh man, I'm going to love working for a nonprofit. So, I mean, I had started a nonprofit, I ran a nonprofit, it was great, but it was all volunteer. And then at one point in my career, I thought, man, I would love to work at a nonprofit. I went and did it, and I hated it for a few reasons. And so I didn't transition into that as much as I could have. And so, I think there's some value in just sort of trying things without, burning the ships right away, if you will.
No, absolutely. I don't suggest anyone because everyone's not an entrepreneur. And
right. Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not telling anybody, oh, just quit your job and start. No, for me, I'm not haven't quit my job yet. I'm not ready for that. I know the situation we are financially. So why would I want to put myself in the hole? And my hours are flexible enough where I can do what I have to do. I go to work at 4 a.m. I'm out by 12 in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
I have the rest of the day to focus on doing. That's just more work for me on the side. That's it. But if I seriously do want it, then I will put in the work and the effort into building what I have to do.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, that's right. So, and that's where there's no like right answer that fits everybody. And that's what people get frustrated by that. They'll come to me and say, what should I do? Well, man, we got to dig in. We got to figure out who you are, what you want, how you're wired, what you can handle. I'm not just going to tell you, here's the 5 steps to success. Some people will do that. Some people will do that and they'll sell books and they'll make videos and all that sort of stuff. And it works great for the people that are in that situation. But the problem is that other people, do that. They say, oh, here's the 5 steps to happiness. I'm going to read this and follow this. Or here's the 11 things to do to become happier. People read it. And, for some people it works, but the rest of the people that it doesn't work for, they sit there now, they're looking at themselves going, what's wrong with me? Why can't I be happy? Why can't I be successful? There must be something wrong with me. And it's all because people act like there's some magic formula that fits true for everybody. And it's just not. We are humans. We are messy. We have different personalities. We have different experiences. We have different desires. We have different relationships and expectations and all of these things. And you've got to get through that. And plus we've got all these years, right? Like 30, 40, 50 years of society telling us what we should do, what people expect of us to do, and what the right thing to do is. We have to kind of get through all of that and say, all right, purely, truly, authentically, who am I and what do I want? It's harder to do than what most people realize. And so it's easier to just sell a magic formula. Magic formulas don't work for most people.
Nope, it doesn't. Listen, I've taken all different types of courses. Some things I retain, some things I don't retain.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same thing with books. There's certain things that I read that some of it I might not say that doesn't pertain to me, but there's some things in that book that might hit me a certain way, and I'm like, okay, so I'll take my highlighter and I'll highlight
Right.
it so that I can go back and reference it. And so that's how I do. I don't. There's books that people like, oh yeah, I've read that book and it's changed my life, and then I go read it and I'm like,
yep,
it doesn't.
And vice versa, right? Or
yeah.
Think about movies, for example. I mean, I just saw Coda, right? Have you seen that movie at all? Coda. It's about she's a singer, but she's in a deaf family. I saw that movie. Not that movie. I saw it twice, and it just tore me apart. I was just so viscerally responsive to that, and just so emotional. My wife saw it, and she's like, I don't know. I mean, and it's like, well, how can we, but people are different in the same thing. Like you said, read a book. Sometimes, depending on when you read it, like I've read books 15 years ago that did nothing for me at the time, and read it a couple of years ago. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's going to change my life. Why? Well, because we have different experiences and we've learned more about ourselves and we're in different situations. And so, I think to just judge something at one point in time is not very good.
No, you're right. There's sometimes you have to go when you go back and you're like, I don't remember reading this, but
Right.
You read the book, but then when you read it again and you're like, I don't remember this, but then right at that point in time, it hits you like, oh yeah, that's me. That I understand that,
because now it applies to you and it didn't back then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely, and it's just for me, like especially with the pandemic, I took a lot of the extra money that I was receiving from unemployment, whatever, I just took it and invested in myself. I took courses. I purchased better equipment because I felt like if I'm going to be serious about this and people are going to actually give me something very precious, which is their time, then I want my content and I want my sound to sound good. Mm-hmm. I want my quality to be good. And so I invested in myself. I got myself the Rodecaster Pro. I got me a quality mic. I use StreamYard. And so it was me just wanting to invest in myself and wanting just to improve. So so that's why I take the courses that I take. I'm always taking a course. My nephew's like, what are you doing? And when we're chatting, I'm like, I'm taking a course, or I'm doing something on a call regarding marketing or something. So it's always me wanting to learn and just going and taking that time that I have and doing those things.
Yeah, and I think that's a common characteristic of any entrepreneur. Like you mentioned, not everybody's an entrepreneur. I think some can do it without lifelong learning, but I think most entrepreneurs, especially if you're starting from something from scratch, there's something in you that just wants to learn new things. So whether you take courses, read books, talk to people, some combination of all of that, I think that's a pretty good trait to help recognize if you're maybe could be an entrepreneur or not. If you're somebody that doesn't really like to learn new things, you might be better off, working for somebody else where you have a specific, small set of tasks that you're responsible for. Because when you become an entrepreneur, whether you want to learn stuff or not, you just have to.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely do. You're learning something new. I'm learning something new every day.
Yeah. Oh
day.
no, and it can be overwhelming, right? Because you start saying, well, this is what I want to focus on, and now I've got all these other things I have to do, I have to learn, I have to be, because most of us, yourself, myself, we're not in a position where anything that comes up, we can just hire somebody to do it. So it's all about doing it ourselves, right? We're learning StreamYard, we're learning graphic design, we're learning, how to run a podcast because some people are in a situation where they can just hire that all out. Most entrepreneurs are bootstrapping it and trying to figure it out on their own. But there's something exciting about that. Like most of us like that. Like, maybe I don't want to spend hours video editing, but I kind of like the idea of learning it. And now I have that skill that I know how to do.
And honestly, it's been beneficial. Since my podcast isn't monetized, I've sold some sponsorship spots here and there and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the skills that I've obtained.
Right.
Editing, I've edited other people's podcasts for them and charged them and made money off of that. I've edited people's videos. I've made cover art and logos for people. So the skills that I'm learning and I'm just applying it to what I'm doing, and that's helping me not worry about, I gotta go out there and get my podcast monetized. No, right. I can still do my podcast, but the skills that I'm learning from doing my podcast are very beneficial because yes, it's helping me generate some income.
Yes, it's the skills that you're learning. It's the immediate income, but also, you talk about a production company. Well, you need to know what people are up against, right? So now you understand, what they're going to be facing when it comes to video editing and production and graphic design and cover art and all of those things. So it's important. I mean, it's a critical part of what you're trying to do is you have to be able to empathize and relate to the people that are coming to you. And you can then manage their expectations. Say, if you want to start a podcast, just know, here's what's going to be involved. I know this because I've done it and I've helped other people do it. And so without that experience, you don't have credibility and people aren't going to trust you. So you need that piece of it.
Yeah, definitely do. Steve, this has been great. Now it's part of the show where you plug away, let everybody know your website, everything.
Everything. Well, I'm not going to let you know everything, but I'll give you a couple spots. So yeah, I'm on social media everywhere, but I'm most active on LinkedIn. So that's a great place to connect with me. I do a daily video on the weekdays. It's called Steve's Daily Stool. And that is intentional. That's sort of a play on words, trying to be kind of fun about it. But it's me hanging on my stool.
Does it mean like stool?
Yeah, like exactly. Well, it's kind of fun, right? It's me hanging out on my stool with a whiteboard, just talking about some things. But somebody said, "Hey, you should just sit on a toilet when you do it." And I might some point too. Like it's just sort of, it's fun, right? It's just kind of fun. So the LinkedIn area is where I'm most active, and then I've got a couple of websites. So if you're a small business owner interested in some of the things that we provide support for, you can go to smallbusiness.com. And if you're more interested in my speaking or the mentoring stuff that I do, stevefredlund.com.
All right. Yeah, this has been fun. I thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
But don't leave just yet. I'm going to give my shout outs and we'll chat a little bit right after the show.
Sounds good.
All right. So now it is time for shout outs. Big shout out to my Real Wise fam, Poppy J, Brandy J. Love you guys. Big shout out to the boss, Lady Fina. Love you, babe, and appreciate you. Big shout out to my guest, Steve Fredlund, for coming through and showing some love. And as always, a big shout out to all the essential workers out there. God bless y'all. Be safe. You know how your boy Wise does it. Peace out.
Thanks for listening. Listen on iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, and TuneIn. Find us on social media on Twitter at @wise_b_blunt, Instagram at @wise_b_blunt, and a Facebook fan page, www.facebook.com/wise76. Check back soon for new episodes. Until next time, peace out.